This is the Ansco Speedex Special R. This is a medium format rangefinder with fold-out billows. So this camera was produced in the US occupied area of Germany around 1952. The R on this stands for the uncoupled rangefinder that this camera has incorporated. So one of my main issues with medium format billow style cameras, and one of the reasons I don't really use them, or many people use them in general really, is because there is no way to guarantee your focus. Because of the way you're built, you have to have a lot of knowledge and be pretty confident in your judging of distances, because you set the distance on the front of the lens and there's no way for you to look through a viewfinder or eyepiece to make sure that your focus is accurate. This is probably around the cheapest medium format camera I've used, and honestly I'm pretty impressed with the results and how it works. It folds up and honestly is not a whole lot bigger than a regular cell phone. It is a little bit wider, but as far as size goes, it's about the same. So you could put this in your pocket and walk around and not have to worry about people staring at you or anything like that. And believe it or not, this is somewhat inconspicuous because in general, it doesn't really look like a camera unless you know what you're looking at. So you could have all your settings set, walk up to where you want to shoot, open up the camera, and then fire the shutter. Your shot's done, and then you just close it back up and you're good to go. An example of a camera that I've really wanted to use but haven't because of that whole focusing on the front lens thing is this Zeiss Icon. This is a fantastic camera. It's a 6x9 camera. It's great, but I just haven't gotten around to using it because of the whole focusing system, which is just on the lens and there's nothing to look through. And in fact, the viewfinder on this is rather, well, let's just say it's not the most modern as far as viewfinders go, but you would compose your shot, all your settings are on the front lens, and then fire it away. This will be used eventually, and I'm sure I'll do a video or something special on it, but for right now, it's not going to happen. The reason I went ahead with the Ansco is of course because it has a built-in rangefinder. Yes, it is uncoupled, but the fact that you have something to guarantee your distance that you can then correlate to the lens makes a big difference, and it provides a lot more confidence in your shooting. And the price on this is pretty good. I picked this up from a thrift store for I think it was $12. I just almost hit myself in the face with that. So I picked this up from a thrift store for $12, which was a no-brainer for me. A medium format camera for 12 bucks, absolutely I'm gonna buy it. I just looked on eBay. They sell for, two just sold for $50 and $70. There's a few listed now for $170, which I'm assuming is a full kit in like very good condition. I wouldn't go that far because at that price you can get a decent TLR, a Rolly Flex, Rolly Cord, Yashica. There's several TLRs in that range you can get at that price point that are going to serve you better than I think this would. And size-wise, you're not really going to get bigger negative than a TLR because this is also a square format. If you were getting a bigger negative like a 6x9 or a 6x7 or something, then I could understand paying a little bit more for this, for that bigger negative and better image quality. As far as settings go, on the lens you have shutter speeds up to 1/300th of a second, down to 1 second, and then of course you have bulb mode. This is the Agfa Apotar 85 4.5 lens. Okay, so future me needs to clarify a few things here before I show you these scans. So right off the bat, the negatives from this, they looked pretty good. Now there are a few things that factor into this that change that, which is why these aren't gonna look as good as I'm saying they are. First of all, it was shot on expired film that I know was not stored in good temperatures, black and white T-Max 100. So I knew that they weren't gonna be great. But if you look at these scans, you're gonna see there's almost like a hairy or a fuzz around the edges, and then there's some other weird shapes in there as well. So opening up the camera, there was a thread that somehow had come loose from the billows on this camera, which is why you get a little bit of haze and a little bit of awkward silhouetting or, you know, stuff around the corners. And then upon closer inspection, I held it up to a light, and also there was the slightest pinhole in those billows, which is why they're a little bit washed out on part of it. And then of course you're gonna get those little fuzzy hairs from where the fibers of the billows have kind of come apart and allow light to peek through. Now, because I'm closing and opening this camera as I go, luckily that helped reduce it to a point where it's not, they're not great by any means, but it made it able for me to see how the camera performed, even though they are going to be a little bit washed out. So obviously those will all have to be addressed before I even consider selling or getting rid of this camera. But I just wanted to clarify that before you continue watching, and I talk about how these came out decently well, which besides those other factors, they did come out decently well. And I still think it's a great camera, but with billows, that's something you have to take into consideration. Same with my RB67 or anything like that. Billows over time will wear out, and you will have to replace them or patch them or fix them. So that's just a whole nother ordeal, but something to consider with a camera like this. So back to the rest of the video. And so this really was surprisingly kind of fun to use and easy to use as well. I pick my settings, I close it up, walk around, figure out what I want to shoot, and then when I'm ready, I open it up, make whatever adjustments I need to, point, shoot, good to go, and then just close it right back up and walk away with it. Very simple, easy, don't have to worry about people staring because they think I'm holding a really fat wallet of some sort or something. And it's not bad, it's very simple, very straightforward. And also the viewfinder, despite being rather small, it actually does provide crisp lines to be able to pick out that focus on the rangefinder. Now, as far as advancing the film goes, that is a downside. There is no way to guarantee that you're not doing a double exposure. You just have to remember to advance the film and pull down the shutter. On the back here, you have a little red circle. That's where you would line up the number on the film so you know what shot you're on. This knob here is how you advance the film, and so you just crank that until that next number pops up in the viewfinder. Close that, cock your shutter, and you're good to take the next shot. The biggest issue I have with this is that uncoupled rangefinder. There's a small dial right here on the top of the camera, and it doesn't give you a whole lot of grip, and it's very close to the body line. This camera sat on my workbench for the longest time because I couldn't get that rangefinder dial unstuck. It was completely gunked up. Finally, I tried it again recently. I said I was gonna figure it out. I got it uncoupled. I actually cleaned it. I actually sanded down the insert that goes in there to make sure it threaded properly and wasn't too stiff, because you don't have a lot to grip there, so if you can't grip it, you can't change your focus. Now it is much smoother, much easier to use, but that is still my biggest issue with this camera, is how difficult that would normally be to use on some of the other cameras. I've had similar issues with Contax and the Nikon S. They have a similar dial system that I really don't like, because it just takes a while to change the focus on it. With this, time isn't really as big a deal because you're not going to be really shooting street photography or anything with something like this, since you have to adjust the focus again on the front of the lens, but it is something to take note, and I do wish it was a little bit easier. So if you are looking for a cheap way into medium format, this could be a great option if you can get one at the right price. Again, I wouldn't spend over $100 really on something like this, because again, then you get into the TLR range, which you can get about that same price. But if you can pick one up at a thrift store or even on eBay for less than 70 bucks, this could be a great medium format option to start with. Also, it could be a great option for travel because it is rather compact and easy to take around and manage. So if you like that option as a medium format starter camera, let me know down in the comments below. Also, if you have any other recommendations for budget-friendly medium format cameras to get into that system, I'd love to hear those down below as well. That's something I kind of want to dabble into more, to give you guys more options and informations in that section of film photography. I may be selling this eventually. I want to clean up the rangefinder a little bit more and make sure it's spot on, although the results I got worked out pretty well. Also, I will be selling a lot of other cameras for a friend of mine here relatively soon, so stay tuned for that. I have Nikon, Canon, some Hasselblad stuff. There might be some Contax in there, I don't know. Medium format, 35mm lenses, cameras, a whole lot that I have to go through and list for him and sell. So be sure to keep a lookout for that. I think there's a lot over that I have to go through. Also, there are a few giveaways that I still have to announce from my top 5 underrated and inexpensive film cameras of 2020. One, if you haven't watched that video, it's right up here. Watch that. There still is a chance to win another camera up on that video. And then of course I have the Freewell variable ND filter system that I still have to give away as well. So if you haven't watched those, be sure you do. Don't miss your chance to win some of those. But that is gonna do it for the Ansco medium format billows fold out film camera thing. Yeah, interesting little camera. But so that is going to wrap it up for this video on this relatively inexpensive option for medium format cameras. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you in the next video.